So we're in the home of Suzy Batiz, entrepreneur, founder of Poo Pourri, a multi-$100 million a year company. And what's so interesting about her life, and the reason why I wanted to even build a deeper connection with her than I already have, is because Suzy is a really good example of someone who has recovered from failure multiple times. I think the perception of successful capitalists is that they were always that way, or there's something better about them, and you don't hear about the struggle as much. And Suzy's been really open about the fact that she's been bankrupt, literally, as emotionally, spiritually, financially. And so she has come from the absolute grave and built something that is amazing. And I want to unpack that because I think the opportunity right now to be a successful entrepreneur even later in life exists as long as you are willing to go all in on it. And she did. And somebody who had her success, her real success, the success that built the success that builds a world-renowned company that sells hundreds of millions of dollars, it all came later in life. And that's really fascinating to me, as opposed to the social media world that we live in today. This is somebody who built a real impressive business, selling real new innovative products in the world at a later age. And I want to unpack that because I know there's a lot of people who think that they've missed their time, or that one product can't change everything, and are begging for the scraps or leaving their great ideas on the table. And I want to get Suzy's story out to inspire that next entrepreneur who is sitting on something just as impressive and exciting. Well, Suzy, thank you for welcoming us into your home. This is spectacular. I think it's easy to assume that when you walk into a place like this, or someone sees your success, that it's easy to assume that it's always been that way, or that this person had a very linear path to success. And I was hoping we could start by me asking you about failure.
Oh boy. When, like today's failure, or?
You've been very public about the fact that you've been bankrupt. You've had business twice
bankrupt.
And you've had businesses obviously not go the way that you wanted them to. And then 1, 2, skip a few, 99 Poo Pourri.
Yes.
Comes out of nowhere to a lot of people, and now it seems like it's an overnight success. And I was hoping that you could tell the other side of the story.
Yeah, so gosh, I don't even know where to start with the story. Basically, I guess we could have two chunks. Like the first 38 years of my life was filled with really drama, and the energy was me just trying to get my feet back up on the ground, right? I often say it's like being at the top of a mountain of a double black diamond. You lose a ski and it's a slope like this, and you just fall and you can't quite get your grasp, right? So my first bankruptcy was when I was I was married, bankrupt, and divorced by the time I was 21 years old. So I came out of the gate really flat on my face, right? Tried to kill myself when I was 21. I was in an abusive marriage at 23. Was homeless at about 26, just for a couple weeks. It wasn't super dramatic homeless. I was couch surfing. I didn't have a place to live. I had 2 kids. That wasn't fun.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I was always I would have a job, but then I always had a side hustle. And what was interesting about the side hustle, Ryan, was that I thought that money and success was going to fill some void within me, some hole. I thought if I can be successful enough, if money and success were the thing that was going to drag me out of this, it was like the thing I could hold on to. So everything I touched just fell apart. I would have businesses on the side and they would all close. I've had literally, I need to make a list of this. We need to put that on my to-do list, but I need to make a list. I've had bridal salons, clothing salons, I've had tanning salons.
Wow.
I've had businesses, interior design. I had a bridal salon. I mean, I had businesses all the time.
And
right?
are these all before age 38?
They're before age 38. So my big dream was, so I had two dreams. When I was really young, I wanted to work at a factory or the post office because you made a lot of money. So that tells you what economic level I grew up with. Like that was a good job and you make a lot of money, okay? Or the military. My aunt and uncle were in the military and they had a double wide trailer. And I mean, they were rich. It was exciting,
Wow.
They were the rich people. So I thought, wow, I want to be rich like them. Like I need to get a good job. I need to make money. And I just crawled and climbed and crawled and climbed. And it's like every time I would fall on my face and I would just get back up and try again. And then finally, I came up with an idea, which would be great now, if anybody's listening, that wants to do this. This was in 1999. I was recruiting. I was the vice president of a recruiting firm because I always got to the top of whatever job I took. I was fast promoted. I'm pretty quick, smart. And I thought, what's important? Not a person's skill, is their culture. So I had a concept called Greener Grass, and it was a recruiting site, a recruiting platform, where it first matched people's culture to a company's culture. That was the first level of match, and then you could go in and see what jobs they have. It'd be a great idea now. It was 25 years too early, right? But anyway, I'd put all of my money in it, a little bit that we had. We were living in the big house, the 2 cars. We had mortgages.
So I have to ask, how did you get on your feet after
working,
all of those?
like
So
recruiting.
You worked.
Oh, I did everything. I cocktail waitress because I found out, I'm in a casino because I found out you could make $500-$600 a day. So I did that for like a year and a half, saved up enough money to get a down payment on a house. Then somebody came in that was recruiting, and I was like, well, I can sell, let's do that. So I started recruiting, then became a vice president of a recruiting firm. So I always had a job and I excelled at the job. But I realized when I was in sales, all I had to do was sell more to make more. So to me, it was awesome. It's like, oh, this is great. Instead of my, $20 an hour, my flat salary, give me a open field and you better stand back, right? I was super aggressive, I'm going to make this thing happen. But I really knew there was something wrong with the recruiting field. So I put all my time, energy, and what little bit of money we had, and I'd quit my job and was contracting a little, and then the stock market crashed in 2001, and I was 38, and I was literally done with business. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I put on headphones. I listened to Disturbed, that wah, wah. I was angry. I had rage just coming out of my being. I have tried so
You want to curse, and you can curse if you want to curse.
Fucking hard. I had tried so fucking hard at being successful. Right now, when I tune in, I can just cry from just the level of exhaustion that I had. Because if it were for effort, I would have been a gazillionaire. Because nobody had more effort than me. I was always working, always climbing, that's the way it was. I was going to do it, and it just never worked. So when that happened at 38, when I had a bankruptcy, I was in a state of rage and depression. And I didn't want anything to do with business. I made business the bad guy. And, honestly, Ryan, what I realize now is it wasn't even business, it's how I was doing business. So there's very common practices in business that are really sleazy. For example, I'm gonna do you a favor so that you do me one, right? Mm-hmm. Cute guy, I know he likes me, but I'm gonna go to lunch anyway because I might get the deal. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these sideways, out of integrity business moves that are legit business things. I'm gonna make a phone call and pretend like I'm someone else to get someone on the phone, and then I get them, and then I have their attention. I'm gonna pitch. Those newsletters all the time. Hi, Suzy. Do you want to have lunch? I'm like, who is this? And I feel like it's a freaking cheesy, sideways sales letter. So
it's all those things that we do to try and get something.
Exactly.
Even if it is coming at it from the perspective of, I'm going to give to this person so that then I can get. Yeah. It's always, what what can I get out of this?
100%. So I did all of that, right? And when I was bankrupt, not only did I get to face, not only I was full of so much shame, like I lied to everyone. You know, I didn't tell anyone the truth that I'd filed bankruptcy. I didn't even tell my kids the truth. Like that's what gets me, when you're at such a point when you lie to the people that unconditionally love you, right? That's where I was. It's like I can't even face them. I can't even tell them what I've done. So I'm going to tell them that we have to move across town because, you know, and we need to be closer to work. And I uproot my family. Of course, how jarring is that now? You know, kids are, anyway, whatever. But I was sitting in this really big pile of exhaustion, shame, guilt, embarrassment. I mean, just all of this stuff just came down on me. And I went to a hypnotist, or whatever you call it, a hypnosis counselor, and he said, you know, your problem is you have no meaning in your life. And I was arrogant. I was like, what are you talking about? I have kids, I have meaning. And he goes, no, you have no spiritual practice. You don't have a God. Your God has been money and success. And I was like, okay, whatever, dude. And he gives me a book, Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you've read it. Yeah. And I read it and I was like, well, this is interesting, right? So that was like a little crack open in this, you know, this really pit of hell I was in. And I started reading that book, and then I started studying devouring religions, you know, Buddhism, Hinduism. I was a Kabbalist for a minute, conspiracy theory. Like I was literally just like.
I love how you put conspiracy theory in the spiritual.
Oh, it was. David Icke all day long.
Oh dear.
You know, the world's ran by reptilians.
Oh dear.
You know, I was in it hard.
And it is funny how things like that, they replace what some people use to find meaning.
Yeah.
So you can find meaning by dedicating your life to something, or you can find meaning in, well, everything is a conspiracy and the world is against me, and my meaning is to expose that.
Yeah.
And we do such adorably complex things to find meaning.
Yeah.
So how did that unravel for you?
Well, I terrified my children, letting them know that reptilians were running the earth. I always tell them they survived me. But what I started seeing was this common theme in religions, and I was like, hold on, I know the story. As I studied various religions, and then I realized that, I don't know, I was just curious and open. I was starting to be a little open. And then I'm taking my daughter to an acting lesson, and I'm waiting for her. I go into a bookstore, and I see on a bookshelf this book, and it's Byron Katie's picture, and it says Loving What Is. And I was literally like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I am not loving what is, okay? Because what is awful right now. Because remember, I'm still in the pits of this depression.
And you're 39, 40 around this time?
I'm probably about 40, yeah. And
I don't mean to belabor the point of age, but I'm really fascinated, and we'll get to this, of the fact most people think their lives are kind of over at 40.
I know. It cracks me up.
Some people think their lives are over at 30.
Yeah.
Or at least you've solidified the path you're on and there's no more changing.
Yeah, no.
And what's really interesting about your story is that you completely changed the game.
Yeah.
After 40.
Oh, yeah.
So at 40, you're looking at this book saying, fuck that.
Fuck that. Like loving what is. Like, pfft, I'm not going to love this, right?
And you're into conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
You're not happy.
You know, this is how bad it was. I wouldn't even make a sales call because I was doing interior design. I wouldn't return a call unless the numerology was right. I had given up so much control in my life. I had no agency in my life at all. I was sleeping in my bed. I was sleeping and turning my bed a different direction every month because of feng shui. Like, okay. I was in a really, really bad place, okay? Like, I had nothing within me to hold on to anymore. And so I see this book, and she just keeps looking at me. So
it is a very bold cover. Yeah.
It is. You know, she's just like staring at you. So I go pick it up. I devour it, right, in 2 days. Go online. I was at one of her workshops 2 weeks later, and I went into her workshop drinking the big thing of wine a night, like the double yellowtail, the big one. Yeah, I was drinking that every night. And I didn't think I had I wasn't even conscious enough to even think if I had any problem, right? I was so out of my head, out of my mind. And I went to her 10-day workshop, and I walked out completely at peace and free for the first time in my life. And what happened in that, just to kind of highlight, is that I had been such a victim for 38 years, 40 years. And then even, we're going to get really talking about taboo topic, but even my molestation, Byron Katie looks at me and she said, "Did you say no?" I'm like, I'm a little girl, right? And I was like, no, I never said no. But what happened in me owning that I didn't say no is I found some empowerment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's like, hold on, what if I had said no? What would have happened in my life? So slowly I started gaining this, not only power, but also peace. And I was sitting at home listening to Gangaji and just so blissed out, crying just in gratitude that I had finally, for the first time in my life, found happiness. And still didn't want anything to do with business. I was like, because business is still the bad guy, but it doesn't matter. I found happiness. I don't need business anymore, right? Because that's what was going to give me happiness. Now I'm happy. I don't need anything. I don't even need to work. I didn't even know if I was going to be with my family. I was just so happy. So I really sat in that state for a couple of years. And I joined kind of the Byron Katie camp, was going and doing all the assisting there, and had zero desires, dreams, anything to move from that place. So when people always say, like, you have to have a dream in order to get it, I don't believe that. I actually believe that whatever dream you have could be limiting you greatly. I like just being open in the moment and discovering what that opportunity is available right now, because that's the way this has all worked out for me. Trust me, I could never have dreamt of this. My dreams wouldn't have been this big, right? I'm surprised all the time. Yeah.
So when did you shift from this place of, I'm really happy with what is, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are scared to get to that place. I hear all the time, if I heal all my warts and wounds, I'm afraid I'll lose my drive. If I'm just happy with what is.
You will lose your drive.
Tell me
But that's
what you
not
mean.
a bad thing. It's actually a good thing.
Tell me more.
Because I think that drive is probably sabotaging you. Because it's an external drive, it's not an internal from here drive, right?
I've found it's what a lot of people call drive is really this need to consume to fill a void.
Yeah.
And the void never gets filled. And so we call this drive because we're doing lots of things.
Yeah, it's more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
it's more like
bringing
the
the void
hamster
out.
wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when
hoping something comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when that is sealed or filled or satisfied or evaporates, then you're in an abundant place, and you can now you're powerful. Now you can just create.
Yes.
And creation feels really good.
Creating
feels really fun, really light. It doesn't feel like you have to tap into the extra energy reserve to try and will yourself into doing the things you don't want to do.
I love what you just said, because it reminds me, so let's talk again about, the 38 years. I was creating in order for that thing to give me something, right? It's like having a child to fill some void in yourself. Like, what a horrible energetic to put upon this being, right? It's like, it's never gonna, that's a really kind of screwed up energetic. And it's just, that's what I was doing with businesses. It's like I would do this so that I could get that. It was that same business move that was going on, right? And I know most entrepreneurs out there are probably like, I do that all the time. What I'm a fan of, what I've discovered, is that when I can create from a place of just the desire to create without any wanting anything from that creation, that it's going to get me something just because I want it to exist in the world, that's when I've been the most successful. That creation's not going to get me anything. It's not going to get me fame. It's not going to give me recognition. It's not going to get me, it's literally just an outpouring and sharing. It's like making a great meal, or, you know, you make the best cookies. You want everybody to taste them because they're so good, right? You're not making it to impress them about your cookies. You want to share.
Or to get anything in return for the cookies.
Yeah, no. You're like, here, taste these cookies. I made them. They're fantastic. And here's the recipe.
So I asked, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs worry about them losing the drive. And, we're talking about that unhealthy drive that really exhausts us. You did get to that place where you were just happy. And you started to want to create. When did it shift again into business?
Well, I think I told you, I wrote a course called Inside Out, How to Create a Life You Desire by Going Within, because I knew that any external motivation is not going to create the life you want, right? Because at some point it's going to catch up with you. What I knew is that when you go internal, it's like an inside out flip. When you focus on the internal, that your external world actually shifts and changes, and you can create whatever life you want. So I wrote this course, had 5 women in my class, and none of them finished it. And I had the thought, oh, I just filed bankruptcy 4 years ago. I could see why they don't think I know about abundance, right? It made sense to me. And I just trashed that. And about not even 6 months later, probably even a couple months later, I was at a dinner party, and essential oils were always my hobby. And my brother-in-law said something about bathroom odor. And we started talking about, can it be trapped? And I felt alive. Like, I felt like a zing. And I was like, oh my God, I saw it all. I was like, oils floats on water. And I just said, I can do that. And he very sarcastically like, oh, you think so? And I was like, yeah, I do. And it took me 9 months. But the difference, Ryan, wasn't that I was creating so that I could get something. So this is this kind of movement. I was being pulled in by this curiosity if I could do something, right? It was like a painter. Can I paint the sun? You know, it's like a Rembrandt. You know, he wanted to paint that skyline exactly. So that's where I was at. Can I do this? Never, ever, ever thought about being product, business, marketing, nothing. Just for the act of creating it. Took me 9 months, ironically, right? And I created, and then it was like, it's so good, you have to share it with the world. Just like I would if I wanted to share the avocado toast with you this morning, right? It's
and
like,
it was really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
But when you make something really great, you want to share.
Yeah.
So that's the energy with which Poo Pourri started.
And that was the first formulation.
Yeah.
Really the original formula,
It's the
if you will.
original, yeah. And
that
still
you started using.
And it's the base of everything. Yeah, still. We still use that same formulation as our base. So the energy was just completely different from the past. I didn't need that business to fill me. I didn't need anything to make me happy. I was already happy. And then I got into my own cycle of, Byron Katie used to say, it's easy to be peaceful when you go sit on a mountain in Sedona, but get into life. So I spent a decade of spinning my wheels out, feeling scared, going down to the jungle, drinking ayahuasca, coming back, going, okay, I'm not scared right now. Oh, I'm scared again. Like it was 10 years of me, being great and terrified and not. It's like a really messy yoga practice. It's like, okay, I have these principles, but how can I actually live them in the world? And I'll be honest with you, probably only this year is when I feel like I'm in my stride of really those principles all kind of, it's 10,000 hours, right? So I could have pretended along the way. I didn't. One thing I did is I was not willing to pretend. So because I pretended a lot prior to 38. After that, I'm like, screw it. I could lose everything. I'm going to go towards what turns me on. I'm going to be who I am in the moment. Like, that's what I'm going to do. If I'm scared, I'm going to be scared. If I'm happy, I'm going to be happy. And it was a little bit of this kind of ride. But always looking at whatever I was creating in the business, coming back to, number one, how did I create this? And what's the energetic what's the energetic vibration or footprint in which that was created?
And you're fine-tuning for that.
That's it.
You're fine-tuning for that feeling, really.
I'm fine-tuning to, and in my new course that's coming out, what I say is you were born, what I've discovered is that you're born with an authentic vibration, right? So you come in as a soul with a vibration. And then based on the environment, where you're nurtured, your programming, society, everything, that vibration, the channel gets a little way off dial sometimes, right? And I think that, and in what I like to teach is that all we're doing is trying to get back to that authentic original vibration. You already are that, right?
And
it's just like the dial's off. My dial was like the knob was broken off, and
when my daughter was 2, I was at breakfast with my buddy Jesse Elder, and Esther was running around at Joe's in downtown Austin, and Jesse looks at me and says, "Man, all the work we do to try and get back to that."
That's it.
It's just the wonder and
That's it.
The excitement. Everything we do is we're just trying to get back.
That's all we're trying to do.
That.
Yeah. So
I can't help but wonder though, as you said, Byron put it, it's easy to be in that state when you're on a mountain in Sedona.
Yeah.
Business is not a mountain in Sedona.
It's not a mountain in Sedona.
It can be fun, it can be exciting, and there are days that you take it on the chin.
Most days.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always problems.
So how did you recalibrate, and especially when you have the memory of business equals bankruptcy, of business equals stress, of business equals pain, and then you create this? It would be easy to understand that someone would say, yeah, I created this thing. No, I don't want to go into business. No, I'm not going to go back into that experience. But you found a way to bring that state of being into building something amazing.
Yeah.
How did you make that transition?
Well, I think again, it's more like you have Esther, and you're going to do what you have to do, whether you parent right or you don't parent right. You're going to always adjust as you go, right? Mm-hmm. That's business.
Okay.
I brought this thing into
analogy.
The world that I am responsible for, right? I want to share it. I knew that. With that sharing comes a responsibility of taking care of it, making sure that it grows. And then, sometimes I was a horrible parent. Sometimes I was a great parent. I've been everything in business. I've been a bully. I've been a bitch. I've been a saint. I've been amazing. I've been it all, right? And it's each time, I keep closing the gap. I used to spend a lot of time in fear, and then I would spend less time in fear, and then less time and less time and less time. So that gap just keeps closing, just as you would a yoga practice or something. You fall less, And it's a long game in my experience. And especially when you're using business as the catalyst, as a major catalyst for your self-growth.
Yeah, and it's a good one for that.
It's a good one.
I wanted to ask you about building and running a team, because, forgive me if I'm wrong, you did not do that in the first business, in up to 38, correct? You had all these side hustles.
Yeah.
And that didn't go the way that you wanted them to.
Right.
And then you have this thing you want to bring to the world.
Yeah.
And from the outside, I'm sure you're tired of hearing this. It seems like it just took off like a rocket.
Yeah.
And I would
it's like that actor in Hollywood, overnight success.
10 years later. So I'd like to hear about that, but I'd also like to hear about the adjustment of, it's one thing to be in a Zen spot by yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're leading other people into that. And I'm asking selfishly because this is my transition.
Yeah.
So I feel I've done so much work as an individual, and business has been my catalyst to get to this place.
Yeah.
And it's another new a new level to bring other people with you into that vision and that experience. So I would just like to hear about yours.
Well, and again, like I said, I really think I've just got into my sweet spot this year. As far as where I could say, like, hold on, I got this. Like, I think I understand what's going on. And I've never thought about this before, but when you just said that, it's also the energy. I used to have employees to do a job, so I wanted something out of them. And now I more think of collaborating with genius, with people living in their genius. Like, I love collaborating. Everything here, most of things are collaborated with artists, right? I love playing with artists. But I didn't realize that's what I'm doing in my business. That's the best way to do in business.
That's such an aha.
It's such an aha. And I really hadn't thought about it. I knew I was choosing people to be in their genius more, but I didn't understand until this moment, so thank you. But it's when someone is in their genius, I get to be in my genius, and there's no frustration and there's no tension in my experience, or very little.
Yeah.
When people aren't in their genius and you're trying to get something out of them that's not in their genius, there's a lot of tension.
I've also noticed that myself and those around me have a tendency to discount their genius because it seems easy.
Oh, that's
So
it.
so the things that I'm really good at, put me on a stage. Like, if there's a stage, I would like to go on it, please.
Yeah.
What are we doing on the stage? I have no idea, but I would like to be on it.
Yeah.
And I know half the room would rather be dead, right? But in my head, I think, well, everybody can do that. It's just a stage. Who wouldn't want to be on there? That's the sandbox. That's the playpen.
Yeah.
And I've found as I work with people, if I don't know what my genius is and what that feels like, it's really hard for me and the other person to be able to identify that, because we're thinking about what we can get from each other
100%.
rather than
It's
how can we
transactional.
free each other up to just be in that zone.
Yes.
And then stuff just kind of bakes, and
It's magic.
it is magic.
And I'll tell you, so my first experience of this is even, people always see me as creative, and I am. I love marketing, I love creating campaigns and programs, but it always wasn't smooth. And one of my first photo shoots in Ojai, I literally took a photographer in their genius, a stylist in their genius, a creative director in their genius, a producer in their genius. We had no plan. We go to Ojai, and we produce the best pictures that have probably ever been taken. I never liked taking pictures before then. There was a lot of pressure, and it wasn't ever fun for me. It was a really awkward, horrible thing. And it was so playful and so fun and no tension, and it was just great. Because everyone, it was like, oh, how about this? And oh, that's great, and how about that? Then you can start riding on this energetic, the wave just gets created much easier and better. And I was like, why did that work? And why is this so kludgy? And what I realized is because I was allowing people, because of my hope addiction, I can squeeze them, mold them, shape them into their genius, rather than going, no, you're not in your genius, bye-bye. Let's get someone in their genius, right? This isn't serving you or serving me.
The reaction you're seeing in me is just the frustration of how many times I've done that.
Oh, I've got the T-shirt, the souvenir cups, the trophies.
We make it so hard on ourselves,
Got it
Suzy.
all.
We make it so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. And I won't pretend like I've got it figured out. It's a work, but because I believe, one of my strengths is I see possibility. One of my weaknesses is I see possibility. And sometimes that's the only thing I see, right? I don't see all the other around it.
I understand.
Yeah.
So I have to wonder, tactically, you're starting to bring on other people.
Yeah.
You have this product. I mean, this isn't a super high margin product. We're not selling, we're not getting $1,000 commissions every time a bottle of Poo Pourri is sold. There was a tremendously large marketing budget to make the video hit in the way that it hit.
But that was 8 years in.
That was 8 years in?
Yeah, we were 8 years old.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. PooPourri's 13 years old.
Wow.
Well, 12.
Wow.
2007. April
Okay.
2007 was the first bottle we sold.
Okay, that's amazing.
12 years. That's what I mean. Yeah, people don't understand. So what my strategy was is I'm actually wasn't that interested in business. Okay, I was interested in continuing my personal development, and I had this child I have to take care of. Okay, it's kind of like I got to go to the jungle. Like I would leave the company. I'd be like, here's the keys. I would go down the jungle with no cell phone, no Wi-Fi for 2 weeks at a time and be like, you guys just figure it out. Like this is my priority. And then I would come back and try to integrate all that. I wasn't even that interested in business still. I was interested in my personal evolution, and that was my priority. And I often felt resentful a little bit that I had this thing to take care of. I didn't even realize that it was the thing that was helping my evolution, right? And then once that started flipping, I was like, oh, this business is merely an aspect of myself. And that's interesting.
It is.
Right? Then my world all started merging together, rather than being, oh, this is business Suzy, spiritual Suzy, mother Suzy. It was like all these Suzys started, what's happening with my kids? Oh, how's this a reflection of me? What's happening in my business is a reflection of me. And it's like, oh shit, okay, my world just got really collided.
Where I was under the assumption that the video happened much sooner.
No.
And so I was curious how it scaled successfully without breaking, because you would have to do a lot of personal development work quickly to try and keep up with that growth.
Oh, I have.
As it was scaling.
I have.
Well, tell me about that.
Yeah, so the first year we did $1 million in a $5 wholesale product.
Where did those sales come from?
Boutiques.
Okay.
So what I often tell people, like I've never had a business plan, ever. People will tell you what to do. Once you have a child, don't people tell you exactly what to do? Everything you should do. Oh, here's what you need to do. You're like, okay. So that's the same thing with the business. People tell you, oh, you need to do this. So I literally just kept following footsteps. And
especially when you have something that's worth sharing.
Yeah.
And I feel the need to put that asterisk in there, because there are a lot of business owners who go in just looking for the money. And so there's no ability to really amplify that, because it's about what I can extract out of this. What can I sell? What can I get?
Oh, yeah.
But when you've got something that people love, people start telling you what to do. Like, I want to put it in this shop, or you should talk to this person.
That's it. Yes. Oh, great. That's a great distinction. That's true. Yeah. So people would just tell me what to do, and I was doing that. So it's like I was keeping that going, but I really just want to be meditating and going down to the jungle, So I was doing that. I would run the business, and I would go out to the jungle, and then I would come back, and it was a very herky-jerky kind of thing. But what I knew ultimately, again, remember, I wasn't that interested in business. So there were some interesting dynamics going on. I wasn't interested in business, yet I was desperate to keep it alive, yet I was really only interested in what was going on inside of me. And I just wanted to go be sitting in a mountain. So it was an interesting little complex thing going on there, And I mean, it seems much jerkier now. It's all perfect, right? At the end, it's like, oh, everything makes sense, and it was all amazing, and I got what I needed, and everyone else got what they needed, and there's lots of stories in between all of that. But so I was just going down. We did $1 million the first year. I knew that there was something I had to keep running, but I was not willing to give everything I had to the business and sacrifice my personal development, because I was starting to find freedom within my being. So I was just operating both of those at the same time.
Did you feel like that held you back, or did you feel like it amplified the result?
Well, that's one of the things. Now everybody's like, scale, scale, scale.
Right.
That was 8 years. So we were doing $1 million a year, second year, $2 million, third year, $3 million, fourth year, $4 million, So at 8 years, I was doing $8 million a year. I was making about $2 million profit. I was going to Maui, 10 weeks a year, going down to the jungle, I had a pretty sweet little life going. And then I got this urge that came up out of me, like, I got to get the show on the road.
I actually felt excited when you said that.
Yeah.
Because there's actually a lot of freedom in waiting for the impulse.
Yes.
Or waiting for the urge.
You have to.
Because I know I'm a driver. I want to beat business into submission.
Yeah.
And I do that at my own expense.
Oh, yeah.
And that looks like burnout, and that looks like struggle, and it looks like pain. It doesn't feel like ease.
Yeah.
But when you feel the impulse and you just have to do it, there's a lot of freedom in that. And so I think I know where you're going next.
Yeah.
And I got really excited when you said that.
Yeah. So that's it. It's, so did I do it right? I don't know. Did I, I'm sure someone would have scaled it much faster. But what ended up working out is that this whole time, because remember, I'm debt-free, never had a loan, so this is all my own money. I keep reinvesting into the company. And whenever I felt that urge, like, oh shit, I got to get this show on the road, I had a stockpile of cash and a pretty strong company. Like, I knew who we were before I started to scale. And actually in The Innovator's Dilemma, Clayton Christensen talks about that. I remember reading that and going, hold on, that's what I did, right? I just did it intuitively. What he says is at the beginning of innovation, you have to be impatient for profit and patient for growth. But once Me Too start coming out, you flip that. You become impatient for growth, and I mean, wait, how do you do that?
Impatient for profit.
Yes, yeah. Impatient for profit, and you just go towards growth, right? It's just like go. So that's what I did, just naturally. It's like, okay, we got to go now. But it was that literally, I remember waking up, looking at my husband, going, like, I got to go. Like, something has to happen. And what's an impulse? Last year, I lost a few $1 million on this automatic unit, and I launched it before the impulse. Supernatural, my new company. I launched it before the impulse because of a pressure, outside pressure. So again, it's a practice. I wouldn't tell you I'm a master. I learn. And I'm like, oh shit, there you go. Okay, what happened? I went for the impulse. So what I've discovered is that there's a wave of energy. When you wait for that impulse, there's a natural wave of energy that you can ride on that you cannot create by yourself.
How do you find the impulse?
Well, I'll tell you. So I have such a classic story. I don't want to give you the details because it's a private situation, but I remember talking with my mentor, and I said, my daughter doesn't know this about me. I'd like to share this with her. And he asked about her age, and he's like, well, you'll know the right time. And I remember over the years going, I don't want any secrets from my children or anyone. And I remember over the years, she would call me, and every once in a while I'd be like, is this the time to tell her? And I was like, no. And then one time she called me, and I was in Hawaii, and she was going through something, and I felt this bubble come up out of me because she could have had a lot of judgment and created a lot of drama. It was a very sensitive conversation, right? And I felt this bubble come up, and I knew, oh, now's the time. And I shared with her, and it was the most beautiful connection. Had I not waited, it would have been a very disconnected conversation, right? And that's the difference between forcing and then waiting for that natural flow to happen. And it's hard, dude. It's hard when you're nothing these days unless you got $1 billion company, right? Like, trust me, those carrots are all there, right? So I still, with this automatic unit I did last year, like, oh my God, competition, we got to go, right? I jumped the gun and I paid for it. The auto unit flopped because there was a technical issue. I lost millions of dollars, but not even the millions of dollars. It was the time and energy. So that was another lesson for me to go, no, regardless of what the outside world is showing me, wait for this impulse to arise within me. And it is so hard.
Thank you for sharing.
Incredibly hard.
Can I ask you about the jungle?
Yeah.
So we've discussed that you've gone down or you've done ayahuasca 90 some odd times. I've done this myself. I can't imagine doing it 90 times. What keeps you doing that form of work, and what's different than 90 something time versus the 9th time?
Well, probably you have this experience that every ceremony was different. Yeah. Even if you do 90 or 1,000, they're all different. And you will learn and see different aspects of yourself every time. Mm-hmm. And I'm a seeker. I'm an explorer. I'm just the way I'm cut, right? So, and I'm a deep explorer. But every time I journey with some medicines, I discover and see something about myself, about humanity, about consciousness and the way it works. And that is my number one interest. And so I do have one goal or a commitment, and it's to reach my highest evolution in this lifetime. And I don't know what that looks like, but I want to always be evolving and growing. And that's it. And it used to be I was more, like the triathlete of the psychedelic world, and of personal development. I would say now I'm more like, sure, I'll go for a run. That sounds great. I'll discover something on that run. I'm a little more like that now. But every time I would discover something. And my business, Poo Pourri, was built, grown with that medicine. With me going to the jungle, coming back. I remember one day when everything flipped for me. I'd gone down to the jungle, I came back, I'm sitting at my desk, and something scary happened that I can't even remember, fill in the blank, some scary something, competition or, something that we all get terrified of. And I remember sitting at my desk going, I'm in ceremony. That's when I realized there really is no jungle and there really is no medicine. You're always in the medicine, right? So somehow everything started flipping to where, it's just an experience I go down to the jungle and think I have to have, but I'm actually in the medicine all the time. Because what's the difference between this scary thought of a competition or, sales are down? How is that any different than when you're in the medicine and this, the tarry dragon of untruth presents itself? It's all fear. Right? It's just we make a story up that it's different in the medicine. So my practice now more is how can I always be in the medicine?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. I was hoping that you could give advice or what you would say to someone who was starting something after 40 or what they perceive to be later in life or feel like they are not a 19-year-old tech billionaire and therefore are too late. What would you say to that person?
That I talk with my kids about this all the time, and so many young people at work, there's number one, our targets are all wrong.
Tell me what you mean.
Well, to have to be a billionaire at 20, it's like, what kind of target is this? We're raping the earth. We're really a super dysfunctional society. And I believe it's because of those targets. It's like, I just want to make money. I just want to create something and make and be this, rather than what is naturally emerging. It's great that we have this idea, but how can we do that in the most responsible, sustainable way that everyone wins, right? That it doesn't hurt anyone. It actually improves our state of well-being and our consciousness. That's what I'm more interested in now. And I would say that, this whole thing about time, really there is no time. Look at Einstein said it. This isn't a woo-woo thing, right? If time doesn't really exist, how can you be behind? Behind of what? There's always going to be someone that's smarter, richer, ahead of you, whatever, and even that is a concept. But no one can be you, and no one can express like you.
Mm-hmm.
And your expression is going to come. Most famous artists were late in their life. There is a level of mastery that comes from just living life. The reason I won't date a 36-year-old man is because there's a lot of life in those 20 years. They're usually attracted to me, and I'm like, dude, there's a lot. That 20 years, there's a lot in there, right? Even if you don't do it at any successful level, just living alone provides a level of wisdom, right? You don't have to be the smartest person on the planet to learn. We know that. Oh, that's hot. Shit. Hopefully, most people. So I would say, if you're 40, good on you. You right now have more wisdom than you did when you were 19. Hopefully, most people I think do. And this has to be the perfect time for you. And that's it, I still get caught up in that too. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I just notice, and I look at that thought, like, who are you? And what, there's always going to be that carrot, that thought, that, always.
So it's a great segue into the last question I had for you is, after accomplishing what you've accomplished and finding that personal freedom, now, what do you do next?
I'm really interested in freeing myself up. That's one of the things. I started this movement called the Movement Standard, where it's just like moving your spine and your body and all these clenchy spots. I've been interested in freeing up my mind from these old programs that had suppressed and oppressed, I've oppressed myself with. So next is more and more and more freedom. And how can I create now from a place of freedom rather from a place of that constricted programming? And I'm curious to see what that looks like.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know you're being more intentional about sharing content, and I know you have a podcast that I want to help you with when you're ready to launch that. And I know you've got other things that you're starting to create.
Yeah.
And where do people find them?
Well, you can find me at SuzyBatiz.com. I'm on. I do most of my Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually a person on Facebook or LinkedIn. Sorry, I'm just not. I think there's a lot of drama on Facebook. I just don't resonate with it. Instagram I like because I can curate it so well. But yeah, you can find it there, and you'll be seeing a lot more from me. Because there's just this natural sharing that it's like right now, I hope you guys pick some of the basil out of my garden. Like, I have basil and mint, like, too much. So that's what happens is when you're abundant, like, you want to just give it away. So now I'm just looking at, I've learned a lot, and take it or leave it, whatever. I have a lot to share.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I can personally attest. I would highly recommend Suzy's Instagram page. I love how you share the personal development work that you do kind of live as it's happening, or when you're decompressing from something that you did and you share it. And Suzy has told me that she's got a podcast sitting on the sidelines that I'm taking it as a personal mission to ensure that comes out, because I think we need more entrepreneurs that think like this. So thank you very much,
Thank you
Suzy.
so much. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun.
It seems almost petty to say, but Suzy's life changed when she created a product. And she created a simple product that created a several $100 million company. Tell me capitalism doesn't change lives. It allowed her to go on her personal and spiritual journey. It impacted the lives of customers around the world. it impacted the lives of employees. I hope it impacted your life today by the fact that we're sitting here having this conversation about business and meaning and purpose and entrepreneurship and the spiritual path and how it all blends together. It's so overlooked how this path of being a capitalist has an impact on other people in positive ways. It might be the greatest contribution that you make in your life. If you need help choosing your first product that allows you to create that type of an impact, we can help. Go over to capitalism.com/start. We have some free resources for you to help you do that. If you like this video, please let us know in the comments and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to be sending more to you. Thanks for watching.